Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for attending the event today. We're just going to give it a minute or two for the attendees to join and we'll kick off. So just to let you know that the chat functionality is available. Please feel free to put in there where you're listening from today. And also the Q&A box should be available. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, just feel free to put in a question and we will have some time for questions at the end. Now, the session is going to be recorded, so we'll be sending the recording out in the next few days after the event. And yeah, we hope that it's helpful. So we might as well kick off. My own name is Maria Flynn. I work in UCC in the business school, and I'm the recruitment manager for EU. So I suppose my job is to help people to identify masters and postgrad opportunities for them that align with their career goals. So I've been working in UCC for a year and a half now, and I suppose one thing that always comes up when it comes to students and thinking about doing a master's is, the financial implications of it. So we're really delighted to have David here from UCC, who is our budget advisory representative, and he's going to talk through from kind of the student perspective what opportunities and options there are available. And also we're delighted to have James, who is joining us from Bank of Ireland, who is here to talk through, in terms of loan options, what is available. So, there definitely is options out there, and I think it's just having all the information at your disposal. So before we start jumping into what David has to say, I'm just going to do a quick kind of overview as to why do a master's in the first place, because I think that this is something that people are trying to weigh up at this time. There is a financial implication and it's a year of your life. Thank God it's only 1 year, because I know in some other European countries, sometimes your master's can be 2 years. So if you're going to give a year of your life to doing a master's, what do you hope to get back from it? So one of the first things is obviously your earning potential and your employability. I know myself, having worked as a recruiter for specializing in interns and graduate hiring, that already us bringing in master students, they would have a higher salary. So there would be a band that a master student would have over somebody who just had a bachelor's, and they'd already be earning, 5 to 6 grand more per year. Often this can be anything up to 10,000 per year that the master students will earn over a bachelor's. And there's some HEA data that actually outline that in the first 10 years of your career, somebody with a master's degree will earn on average about 65,000 euros more. So while there's a cost upfront, you do make it back. And I do think as well, in terms of employability, again, coming from my own personal experience hiring people, when I see that they've done a master's, it really kind of gives me the insight that they've already had, that extra year of working kind of more in a collaborative sort of environment, where it's not just, a kind of a one-way learning kind of style, that they've worked in team projects, they've worked with external stakeholders, things like that. So I definitely think that it helps people stand out. Especially when the market is bad, because you may put a job live and have 100 applications immediately, so you're looking for ways to kind of whittle that down to the standout people, and often the master is something that you use. Also, deep diving into a specialization. Some people are just really passionate about the area that they want to work in. So having that extra year of specialization really can help them as well to kind of zone in on their career goals. It's fantastic as well for expanding your network. As I mentioned already, when you're doing a master's, you're already working very closely, with external companies, corporate companies who are going to be, as part of your master's degree, providing mentorship, providing project work. So it really does start opening up your opportunities to network and to meet people that will support you in your career. And often in these fields that you get into, you'll realize that, the people that you have even met in university, like your peers who are from all over the world, because the master's programs are kind of so global, they become your network moving forward. And as you go and work in different companies and different industries, you'll feel like you're actually meeting some of these people from different walks of life again. I think it's crazy, even for me who came from working in the computer games industry, how when I would move to a different company, I would have past colleagues and then new colleagues would come in as well. So you start building your network of your friends, your classmates, your lecturers, and as well external corporations as well. It's a fantastic opportunity to pivot fields or actually add on a field. More and more people are coming out of universities, not just with one knowledge area, but they're bringing together two areas of expertise. Like I've had so many students come through master's programs from completely different fields. Like they may have done nursing as their undergrad and decided to do a master's in information systems or some sort of a tech master's, and then reposition themselves in the same industry, but in more of a tech role. So I think it's a fantastic way to add a new skill set onto what you already have. There's an interesting fact, I think, that in your life you'll have about 8 different careers. So the more, I suppose, that you can add on to what you already know, the better as well, in terms of setting yourself up to stand out from other people. Moving on to the next one, helping you gain a competitive advantage and a competitive edge. So often by bringing together two skill sets, it can make you stand out. It can help accelerate your career path as well to drive you forward. As I mentioned already, when we used to hire master's students, we really saw them as being that bit more senior than the bachelor's people. And when team lead positions would then come up within those teams, like they would be a natural kind of choice for going for those. And the last opportunity, I suppose, is for people who are really passionate about a certain area and they want to move into more of the academia and teaching. The master is a very good first step towards moving towards possibly doing your PhD, moving towards teaching. So that's just a couple of, I suppose, kind of areas that you can focus on when you're trying to weigh up whether you do a master's or not. So at that now, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to pass you over to David, who's going to talk us through other funding options.
Thanks, Mairead. Thanks very much. So is that coming through clear for everybody?
Looks perfect.
Great. Okay, so like Mairead said, my name is Dave O'Sullivan. I am the Student Budgetary Advisor with the Student Financial Supports and Advice Office here in UCC. And so I'm here just to talk to you about some issues related to, finance and funding your PhD or your postgraduate study. So here's just a quick look at what we'll be covering with this talk. We'll look at fees, the funding options that are available. So SUSI, Department of Social Protection payments, loans, student assistance fund, scholarships, budget 2025, and then how to make an appointment with my own service. So, if there's some questions that you have after this talk or anytime over the next coming months, you'll be able to engage with me further and we can have a more in-depth conversation about those issues. So with fees, they function slightly differently for postgraduate than you might be used to with your undergraduate. So many of you might have been used to paying your €3,000 student contribution fee, or maybe SUSI paid some or all of it for you, but your tuition fee would have been covered by the Free Fees Initiative, which is a non-means tested support offered by the government. that free fees initiative doesn't apply for postgraduate study, so they can be a bit more expensive. So now for EU students anyway coming in for next year, you're looking at a kind of an average price range of like 4,000 to up to 10,000 euros, or even really realistically beyond 10,000 euros. But that's the average price range that you'd want to keep in mind when you're looking at your postgraduate programs and your funding. Generally speaking, that's paid in 2 installments. So the fees office, they ask you to pay half of it when you register in September, and then the second half in January 31st, so in semester 2. Now, that could obviously be quite a large chunk of payment to make in just 2 installments and quite a financial burden. So if you want, you can opt to break that down into more manageable chunks. You can set up a payment plan through your student admin portal when you're registering. And that way then you can make it in 9 monthly installments rather than just those 2 payments. And as well, just to note that if that's something you're interested in pursuing and setting up, if you're doing any kind of multi-year postgraduate program, you need to apply for that every year. It's no issue applying for it. It's just a step that you need to go through with your registration process of setting up that process. With the fees, the fee schedule has been published now on the UCC fees office. So for the coming year, for 2025, 2026. So you can go on to the fees office website and have a look at any program you might be considering or programs and just get an idea of where, of what the cost might be that you're going to be in for when you're coming back for your postgraduate. Here are the contact details for the fees office. So it's entirely possible you might have some issue to do with your fees. And look, my office is there to help students if they have issues with fees as well. And I'll do everything I can to help. But, for a lot of fees issues, you're going to need some input really from the fees office at some point. So if you've had some difficulty setting up your payment plan, or maybe you're going to be late with a payment some month, something like that, it's best to engage directly with the fees office and to do so early as well, just to make sure that you have all the options available to you that you possibly can have. So there's the fees office phone number, the fees office email address. Just again, important to have it because maybe you're going to be spending less time on campus with your postgrad. Maybe you have a placement or internship element to your program, and so you won't have the freedom to necessarily just walk across campus, go up to the fees office and have a chat with them. So you might need to reach out by phone or email to get those issues resolved. So what type of financial supports are out there for students? So for postgraduate students, there are quite a lot of options available. There is Student Universal Support Ireland, so the SUSI grant, scholarships, particularly for anyone going into any kind of research postgraduate program, Department of Social Protection payments like disability allowance, access bursaries like 1916 bursary. For any of you on the call who might be getting the 1916 bursary, just so you know, they do provide funding for up to 4 years of postgraduate study. So if you are getting that bursary, just talk to the Access Office about your plans for future study and make sure that it's going to be available to roll on for you. Bank and credit union loans, which we'll touch on briefly, the Student Assistance Fund, employment, part-time work as well. Again, maybe you have some kind of paid internship or paid placement element to your program, and obviously that can play a really vital role in funding yourself throughout your studies. Again, parents, support from parents or guardians, and also HCI pillar funding is available. So Student Universal Support Ireland, or the SUSI grant, that's obviously the principal support that students access when they're coming to college to help fund their studies. One of my main takeaways from doing talks like this in the past is that a lot of students looking at going to postgraduate study don't realize that it's available for them. So maybe they were accessing it in their undergraduate and they thought that would be it, but no, it is available for postgraduate study as well. Just a couple of notes though to take note of, just because it differs slightly than it does for the undergraduate model. So previously you might have been used to it paying your entire fee contribution of 3,000 euros if you were an undergraduate. But for postgraduate, the maximum fee contribution is 4,000 euros or potentially a fee grant of up to 6,270 if you qualify for the special rate of the grant. Now, just thinking back to the fees we were looking at there a moment ago, you can see that there could definitely be some kind of shortfall between the price of your fees for your postgraduate program and what you get offered by SUSI. So just bear that in mind when you're planning your postgraduate study as well. They do also offer a maintenance grant for postgraduate study. That's broadly offered along the same lines as it is for undergraduate. So what you are getting for your undergraduate, if you were getting a SUSI maintenance grant, you can expect to get something similar for your postgraduate study. So that, again, that's the maintenance grant that's paid directly to the student into their bank account every month to help them with the cost of living. Just quickly, just to look at the special rate of grant, so that's the maximum rate of funding offered through SUSI. To qualify for that, you'd need to meet the qualifying criteria for the ordinary rate of the grant. Your total reckonable income would need to be under 27,400 euros, and you'd need to have some kind of long-term social welfare payment as part of your household income on December 31st, 2024. If you are awarded SUSI, the payment of fees is done directly between SUSI and the fees office, so you as a student wouldn't pay any part in that transaction at all. Just the maintenance grant would be paid to you. As well, just to note that if you are a receipt of any kind of funding, like a scholarship or a bursary or stipend or something like that to help fund your studies, that might impact your SUSI award. SUSI is bringing in a new stipulation this year, whereby the first 5,000 euros of any scholarship or bursary will be disregarded by their income assessment. So if your bursary is 5,000 or less, then you don't need to worry. But if it's over that, just keep in mind that it could have an impact on the income assessment for the coming year. So how do I support students with SUSI? As a budget advisor, I get a lot of queries about SUSI issues from students. So maybe you are unhappy with your assessment for some reason. Maybe you feel that the income that SUSI assessed you on is no longer an accurate portrayal of your household income, maybe due to some kind of long-term loss of income, like a loss of a job in the house or something like that. There is a process that we can go through together to have SUSI look at that again and maybe adjust your assessment. Also, if you find yourself needing to repeat an element of your program further on in your studies, typically SUSI doesn't offer funding for repeat years, but if it is due to some kind of exceptional circumstances, maybe an illness or something like that, there is a process that we can go through with SUSI to access funding for you for that. Also, I can act as a direct contact between students and the SUSI help desk. So if you're trying to resolve these issues yourself and you're not really getting anywhere, maybe you're confused about what SUSI is asking for or whatever, in those situations, you can name me as the budget advisor as someone who could talk to SUSI on your behalf about your application, and I'm happy to do that. Just to note, SUSI applications are due to open for new applicants in spring 2025, so that is now. They typically would be April. They don't have the application date up yet, or the last time I checked, but it should be sometime in the coming weeks. So just keep an eye out on that. And again, you have a lot of time to apply, but it's best to apply early, just in case there is any issues with your application. And so you know what you can do about those issues and you have time to do it. This is just an important event that's coming up. It's going to be run by SUSI itself. So it's an information session that's going to be conducted online on Monday, 28th of April at 7 p.m. via Teams. And it's for any new and returning SUSI applicants for 2025-26. They'll have information on eligibility, the application process, and the funding that's available. And there'll be a live Q&A as well. So if you have any kind of burning questions about SUSI, it would be a really good idea for you to attend this event. If you want to attend it, you just need to register your interest with SUSI by emailing events@susi.ie, and then you'll get access to that Teams call then. Just some issues on back to education and Department of Social Protection payments. So maybe some of you are mature students who've been receiving back to education through your undergraduate. That will not be available to you more than likely for your postgraduate study. There's only a couple of allowances for postgraduate study to be funded by the back to education allowance. So that's if you're going on to like a level 8 diploma or if you're doing the master's in education. Otherwise, if you're going on to any kind of level 9 degree, really, you're going to lose access to your back to educational allowance. So just it's really important to be aware of that. Now, there is a silver lining in that you will be now eligible for the SUSI fee grant and the maintenance grant, whereas previously back to education allowance, as a back to education allowance recipient, you would have only gotten the fee grant. Some other payments may continue, such as the one-parent family payment or disability allowance. So if you've been getting those, you can continue to get those for your postgraduate study, but just be conscious of any impact that they might suffer from a placement or any kind of work element of your program. Like, are you going to lose access to payment for the duration of your placement? If so, how are you going to get back onto it? So if you are going to be in that kind of situation, it would be a very good idea to talk to your local intro office just about your plans for the future, and just so you know what to expect, so you don't come up against any nasty surprises in the middle of the year. So just quickly on postgraduate loans, so I'll pass you over to my colleague really later on, and he'll have a lot more details on these to offer, but I'll just go into this quickly. Like we talked about there could easily be a shortfall between the funding that you receive and the cost of your postgraduate program. And in those cases, it may well be a good idea to look at loans to bridge that gap. A lot of financial institutions offer dedicated education loans. So the Bank of Ireland offer a dedicated postgraduate loan, which is offered at a very favourable interest rate of 5.6%. And again, you'll get more information on that shortly. But just quickly, again, it's a 5-year loan, or up to 5-year loan if you wish. And I'm hoping I'm still correct with those interest rates. They're the most up-to-date figures I was able to access myself. The AIB also offers an education loan at a slightly higher interest rate of 8.45%. And again, you can pay that back over 5 years. There is no penalties if you decide to make an extra payment during summer holidays or at times that you're not studying. You might need a guarantor to co-sign that loan with you. And just for a quick comparison between the two different interest rates and the cost implications of those, if you're taking out a €1,500 loan and paying it back over the course of 12 months, the cost of that loan with AIB would be €64.63, but with Bank of Ireland, it would be €44.74. So not a huge gap there, but there is a gap. And obviously, as you scale up those figures, maybe you have a higher amount of your fees you need to cover, and maybe you want to pay the loan back over a longer period. The gap in those costs could grow significantly. So just bear that in mind. The credit unions also offer dedicated education loans. They don't have a flat interest rate amongst all the credit unions just because they're independent of one another, but they do, or the average rate was found to be 7.63% at the most recent research. You do need to be a credit union member to access loans from a credit union. You might need a guarantor as well. There are flexible payment options. You can choose to repay them weekly or monthly. The maximum loan value tends to be up to €75,000, but that depends on the credit union itself. And again, you can choose to repay these over 1 to 5 years. The Student Assistance Fund. So some of you might be familiar with the Student Assistance Fund. It's administered locally here in the university. But for those of you who are not familiar with it, it is a source of financial assistance for full-time higher education students who are experiencing financial difficulties while at college. It's supported by the Irish government and the European Social Fund as part of the Programme for Employability and Inclusion. And essentially what it is a further source of funding for students experiencing financial hardship in addition to the SUSI grant. You can apply for it if you are a full-time student and have the correct EU status. So if you are considered an EU student by the university, it is available to both undergraduate and postgraduates, provided that you are progressing through your studies. So it's generally not available for anyone who's undertaking a second program at a level they already have, although you can access it for 1 repeat year. If you are considering looking at a part-time postgraduate program, you cannot apply for the Student Assistance Fund, but there is the Financial Aid Fund for part-time students, and it's offered broadly under the same terms as the Student Assistance Fund. So this is an income assessed model with the Student Assistance Fund, so similar to SUSI. So when you apply, we'll be looking at the full household income. So, you know, for students who are dependent on their parents, we're looking at the student's income and their parents or guardians. For mature students, it might just be their own income or maybe theirs and their spouses. And we'll be looking at all sources of income. So income from employment, Department of Social Protection payments, income from self-employment or farming. And the documents you need can vary. If you're getting SUSI, it's pretty straightforward. We just ask you for your SUSI award letter, which has a full income assessment breakdown on it, and we can just base our own assessment on their work. But if not, for some reason, if you're not getting SUSI, the documents can vary quite a bit depending on your own situation. I won't go into them too much now. I've got some examples here on the screen. But if you're at all concerned about it, you can reach out to me and we can talk about your situation in more depth and kind of get an idea of what you might need to submit. Also, you will be guided by the application form when you're applying as to what you'll need to submit for your own circumstance. So everyone, all the students in the college will be emailed in advance of the fund opening. So the email typically goes out in like early September, and the fund is usually made available in mid to late September. And that email will include information on when the fund is going to open, more details on the application process, links to our own website so you can read up on the fund, the terms of the fund, and the eligibility criteria. And then just so you know as well, the processing times can be kind of lengthy, particularly at the start of the year. So if you are applying, in September or early October, you can expect to wait maybe even a couple of months before you hear anything back from the fund, whether you're going to get an award or not. So don't worry too much if you've applied and you haven't heard anything for quite a while. But if you are concerned at all, you can always email the Student Assistance Fund at ucc.ie for more information. And you can email them as well in advance of applying, just if you have questions about how to apply, or you're concerned if you're eligible or not, or if you waste your time applying. So don't be afraid to reach out to us. Some words on scholarships. So many postgraduate research students have secured funding to pay for their fees or to help with their cost of living. And these are offered through a range of scholarships and research funding programs. If you are looking at undertaking a research program, whether that's like a master's in research or a PhD, then it would be best for you to talk to your supervisor or potential supervisor about the funding options that might be available. There's a lot of different types of scholarships and bursaries. There's probably very few experts on all of them, if any. So for that reason, it's generally best to talk to someone in your own discipline about the funding options that are available for you in your discipline. If you don't have a supervisor in mind yet, then you can explore the database of academic staff for UCC, just to find someone whose interests align with your own and to see who might be a good candidate for your supervisor and reach out to them. Here's just a few quick examples of some of the organizations that offer research or stipends and bursaries for research. There's the Irish Research Council, Universities Ireland, Environmental Protection Agency, Irish Cancer Society. So there's quite a lot of private and public bodies that offer this kind of funding. There is a resource here on the UCC website that lists all the scholarships and bursaries that might be available to you, and they're broken down by categories according to discipline. So again, it's just a really handy, convenient source to have a look at if you're thinking about exploring scholarships. Here is our guide to funding your complete postgraduate finance. So if you want to take your time just to get that QR code and download the pamphlet, it just has a lot of information about the potential costs that you might face and the funding options that are available. So if you want to download that, have a read through it in your own time. It might provoke some more questions, and you feel free to come back to me and I'll talk to you about those questions in a time that suits you. Just a couple of quick points on the most recent budget and how it might affect you with coming back for your postgraduate study. So the SUSI special rate of maintenance grant income threshold will increase to €27,400. The income threshold for maintenance grants for postgraduate students will increase by 15%. The postgraduate fee contribution income threshold will increase to 64,315. So that's all great news for new and returning SUSI applicants. So maybe you mightn't have been eligible before for SUSI, or you dismissed it. So as you can see, they're expanding the thresholds of who might be eligible for SUSI. So it might be worth taking a second look at it as you're progressing into your postgrad. And also, just as I mentioned previously as well, the first €5,000 of any scholarship or bursary will be disregarded from SUSI's income calculation for 25-26 applicants. And then also as well, just a note for anyone who's relying on part-time work, the increase to minimum wage to $13.50 per hour. That's just about it for me, folks. Thank you so much. these are my contact details. That QR code is my booking link. So if anyone wants to book a meeting with me to discuss any of the issues we looked at there over the last few minutes, or maybe something I didn't get a chance to touch on, please feel free to book a meeting with me anytime over the coming months that suits, or indeed, throughout your time in your postgraduate study. I'm more than happy to talk to you. Similarly, there's my email address, and if you want to fire off a quick question, I'd be happy to deal with you that way as well. And also there's the link to our website, the Student Financial Support and Advice website, where you'll find a lot of information on the Student Assistance Fund, Financial Aid Fund, some other supports that are offered to students as well. Also some useful tips and guides on budgeting and managing expenses for student life. Thanks, folks.
Thanks so much, David. There was one question that came in just while you were chatting, and I think it was probably related to eligibility in terms of submitting financial information. And it was, is financial information that you need to submit all from 2024?
Yes. So for Susie, or if it was related to the Student Assistance Fund, they'll be assessing we'll both be assessing 2024 now. By default. So that's what they'd be looking at. Now, as I mentioned, there is a potential for them to look at more recent circumstances. If your circumstances have changed due to some kind of sudden loss in income or something like that, then they can look at more recent financial circumstances as well.
That's great. Thank you so much. Okay.
No problem.
Now, David will remain here if there's any more questions for him at the end, but let's hand it over to James.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm just going to share my presentation here. I just have it there now. I'm just going to test it. So can you see everything here so far?
Yeah, looks good.
It's
up in presenter mode. It's in presenter mode, but it's fine, whichever way you want to do it. You can you can see the next slide. So
okay, 1 second there now. Let me just see if there's display settings. Soft. Is that okay?
Perfect. Yeah, super.
Excellent. So well, it's gone away from my screen there, but this is just my presentation just on the Postgrad Loan Bank of Ireland have to offer. James Towie is my full name anyway, then as such. Basically what I do is I'm a customer advisor in the UCC in 32 South Mall locations. So I would be on campus, and also as well I'd be down 32 South Mall then as well. So what I do is I'm QFA qualified, and I would provide financial advice and in some of the areas where any needs or any areas that need to be discussed, I help address those needs and provide the relevant solutions. So I'm going to talk to you about our postgrad loan offering here today. This is very important information then as such, because it's funding your level 9, your career and everything like that then as such. So thanks again for having me. Thanks to Mairead and David for speaking then as such, and I'm going to get on with the presentation. So our postgrad offering, our loan offering, this is a facility available to people who are undertaking recognised level 9 by the Quality and Qualifications Ireland, so the QII, under the National Framework of Qualifications, the NFQ. And the postgraduate programme leads to a master's degree, like an MSc or an MBA. Just in terms of what we have here to offer then as such. See, our postgrad offering is a lot different to our undergrad offering. See, our undergrad offering before would have been from €500 to 5,000. It would have been over the same term. But see, it's a bit different for our postgrad offering because, see, as mentioned in some of the financials earlier, then as such, it's roughly up to 10,000 to fund your postgraduate degree then as such. So what we have to offer here for the postgrad is you can borrow between €500 to 10,000 euro over a term of 1 to 5 years. So this must be paid off on a monthly basis. It's a bit different to the undergraduate where you could pay it off either weekly or monthly, or any other loan where you could pay it off weekly or monthly. So it's monthly, must be monthly installments for the postgraduate facility. We offer competitive rates. David highlighted some of the rates earlier then as such, but for our postgrad loan facility, we currently offer a 5.6% APR. And the interest rate we have on the loan then is a variable rate, meaning it's a lot more flexible for you to make additional payments if you were to pay off the loan earlier. And there's no penalty fees for paying off this loan facility earlier because it's a variable rate. If this was a fixed rate facility, then it would be a lot different. But with the postgraduate loan, allows you to defer up to 12 months on the repayments, but that means your cost of credit is going to be just a bit higher than such, but you are able to defer payments up to 12 months. But see, for your undergrad one, it would have been 3. So it does give the extra 9 months there then of defer payments, but at the other side of things, your cost of credit is going to be higher, your monthly payments are just going to be that little bit higher than as such. Just moving on in terms of what you actually need to apply and what kind of things that we require then as such. So the thing for the postgrad loan with Bank of Ireland, you must be an existing Bank of Ireland customer. You can apply online for a current account with Bank of Ireland if you're not banking with us. There's no fees with it then as such. There's no fees for the 3rd level or even 2 years after with the graduate. So you must be existing Bank of Ireland customer, and you can apply online through the 365 if you're registered for 365, or through the group website. So it's a very kind of quick and straightforward application. It would ask you it's just about incomings, outgoings. So it'll just say what you're paying in terms of, like, say, your rent or everything like that then as such, say any income, if there's income coming through. So they go through that with you then. There's just a few things here that we do need to that you do need to be eligible to apply then as such. You must be over the age of 18, but nearly everybody who will be doing a postgrad anyway would be over the age of 18. You must be resident in the Republic of Ireland. So basically, so for people who are not residents in, like, say, like who are kind of outside the EU, your residency permit must either be a stamp 1 or a stamp 4 then as such. But typically, for the postgrad loan with Bank of Ireland, it's resident Republic of Ireland. And as I highlighted earlier as well, you must be an existing Bank of Ireland 3rd level current account customer. But again, if you're not and you are interested in with the loan of Bank of Ireland, you can always apply for the 3rd level current account facility. There's no fees on it, and you'll have no fees for the 2 years. So basically, so for 2 years after you finish your degree, then as such, because you'll be a graduate account. So basically, then as such, for another thing there then as such is you must be taking a 1 year full-time postgraduate course in the Republic of Ireland then as such. So I'm just going to move on to here in terms of what you actually need to apply. So basically, what you need to apply is you need your Banking 365 profile set up. But if you're a Bank of Ireland customer and don't have the profile set up, it's very easy to set the profile up. So this can be found on your profile or within the mobile app. So what you also need is proof of your PPSN number. So these might be things such as your payslip, a medical card if you have one, European health insurance card, and a letter from the revenue. So, like, say, if you're working, like, say, like your tax letters, a letter from the revenue would be sufficient then as well. And what you would also require then as well is proof of your student status. So you must upload a picture of your student ID or communication from CEO confirming your acceptance into the course. So basically, this is just kind of going through just some of the interest rates there. So basically, this goes through a sample loan amount of 2,000 to 8,000 over the term of 5 years. So the facility there is available from 1 to 5 years, but the longer the term is, the lower the monthly repayments are, but also your cost of credit is going to be a bit higher. So that's something to bear in mind. So these were 2 loans of 2,000 and 8,000 done over a term of 5 years. The APR is 5.6%. So then the loan amount there then is between 5 and 10, but for this demonstration it's 2 and 8. So for 2,000, your monthly repayment amount is going to be €38.18. Your cost of credit is going to be €2,290.80, meaning that your total repayment amount is €2,290.80 over the 5-year term. But then again, these are variable rates. These are variable rate loans. So if you do want to pay off the facility earlier, your cost of credit will be lower than as such. See, because there's no penalty for any early repayment and as such. That's the offering of the variable rate with our postgrad loans. Then we move on to basically the sample amount for 8,000. So you see a bit of a difference here. For 8,000, it's 157 a month monthly repayment. Then your cost of credit is just going to be that bit higher than as such, purely just because the amount is the higher. But then see, for an €8,000 for €8,000 loan amount, it's going to be including the cost of credit, is going to be €9,163.20. But then again, these are all variable. So if there's any need to pay the facility off earlier, you can do so then as such. But this is just the kind of the last part there. Then so like. If there's any questions, feel free to ask me. You can email me there. That's my email link there. So james.towie@boi.com. And also as well, if there's any questions with any application or anything like that, you can alternatively contact Bank of Ireland Lending at 0818 200 334. And that line is open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. So that's kind of all I have to say really on the presentation part. In terms of the application, then as such, the application is fairly straightforward. You can apply for that online. Takes no longer than 15 minutes to do. Of course, as I said earlier, you must be existing Bank of Ireland third level current account holder, and you must have the 365s then as such. But if there's any issues with the application, you can also ring the Bank of Ireland lending line, the number there, then that's open 9 to 5 Monday to Friday then as such. But that's all I have to really say on that. If you're interested in a loan facility, all I say is just to apply. Or if you want to ask me any questions beforehand or anything like that, you can email me that and I'll get back to you then as such. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time. And if there's any questions, feel free to direct them my way. You have my email there or the chat box there then as such.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for that, James. And yeah, it's so interesting to see the difference in rates as well. Okay, great. If there is any questions, please feel free to start putting them in the Q&A. I'm just going to talk a little bit now about the application process for your master's. So hopefully now that we've alleviated some of the concerns around funding options, you might be more happy to apply. Now, this is an event and the business school has set it up. So I am specifically talking about some of our master's programs, but of course, I think the funding information is relevant for everyone. So even if you haven't decided that you're going to do your master's in the business school and you're going to CACs or SETs, most of this information will be relevant. There are some kind of, I suppose, as you've seen going through, some of these are EU, some of them require you to be already a resident in Ireland. So depending on your residency, some may be open and some may not. But in terms of applying for your master's, if you haven't already done so, it's a very easy process. Even if you just type in UCC apply, it'll bring you to the applying for a postgrad into our UCC apply system. You select your course and you just, I suppose, follow the process and fill out all the relevant information. You gather your information, so it'll ask you for transcripts if they're available. If you're already, I suppose, a UCC student, you won't need to submit the transcripts. That will be able to actually access them once your results come in. If you have not completed from another university and you're waiting, you can upload them at a later stage. It will ask for passport information or some form of ID. And also, if you're not living in a country where English is the predominant language, more than likely you'll have to do an English language test as well, so like IELTS or something. Again, this is something that's not required at the onset. You can submit those documentations later. So if you submit as much information as you can still get a conditional offer based on providing the rest of the information when you have it. And then it's just a matter of like checking your status, depending on backlogs. Like you could be waiting for, it could be 1 to 3 weeks before you get your upload or your actual offer. If there is any sort of delays, just make sure you're checking the portal. It'll clearly say what kind of information it's waiting for. Or if you haven't heard anything, feel free to reach out to me as well. You do, when you apply for a postgrad, actually get to apply for 2 programs at once. So once you've applied for one, you'll get sent a waiver code and you actually can go on and apply for another one. This is actually good in terms of some people, they want to keep their options open and they might want to apply for a different program. Maybe they're a bit worried about reaching the requirements in terms of like needing a 2-1, and there's another program that's at a 2-2 level that they want to also have that as a backup. Now, coming closer to the time, like some of our programs will be filling up, but generally once you've put in an application, even if you've accepted one offer and declined another, if you change or decide, actually I've made a mistake here, I might want to do this one, talk to us, we can see what we can do in the back end. Also for people who've received offers and they may have let the offers expire, then please feel free to reach out to me. Kevin, I can see that you put in something in your chat, but you can't find the Q&A. That's no issue. Just feel free to put the question in the chat and I can answer that as well. There's also a wealth of information about UCC Apply. Just go to ucc.ie apply/support, and there's a lot of the general Q&A questions about using the system, uploading your information, all that kind of stuff available there. So just moving on to our final slide. I suppose just before you, pursue your master's, you're going to have a couple of months off now. You're probably going to, a lot of you are going to, finish up your undergrads and be looking to get your exams out of the way and enjoy your summer. But a little bit of, I suppose, top tips for you. So there is a lot of information already there about your courses. If you go into the actual UCC course pages, all those modules are clickable. You can actually go in, you can see the learning outcomes, you can see the lectures, you can see the overall objectives, and also like, the workload in terms of like whether it's going to be a continuous assessment or an individual or a team project. So you can start doing a bit of research now into some topics and getting into the lingo. Set realistic goals and expectations as well for yourself, because it's I suppose a year where you want to give it your best, and as much planning as you can do and getting into the right mindset before you start, the better. So even looking at some of the goals and the objectives for the various modules can actually, help you to become a bit more kind of in tune as to what's going to be required and help you to start planning, the goals and expectations. And I think it's always good as well to, I suppose, think ahead of time. What do you expect from yourself? Don't go into this thinking you want to be the top student, but like set some realistic goals that you want to, you want to build some strong networks with corporations to help with your career. You want to, meet some friends from different countries and, set some nice goals for yourself. Develop a growth mindset. And I think this is really important for anyone who hasn't looked at growth mindset. There's a really good TED Talk by Carol Dweck, and it's all about, the power of not yet, so there will be, for people, taking on a new challenge, maybe moving into a master's area that they're not familiar with. They may feel like, there's a learning curve there, and just I think you have to give yourself kind of kudos for taking on the challenge and for the effort that you put in, not necessarily for always getting the top results. It's more about the process and developing that growth mindset, that even if you do not as well as you thought you did in the first exam, that this is all a process, and it's a learning process, and you're kind of actually creating new kind of pathways in your brain to set yourself up for like actually being able to take on new kind of goals throughout life. Grow your network, so important. Everyone, I hope you already have LinkedIn accounts, but even after this, I'd recommend, find us on LinkedIn and add us. This is your network, and start thinking about your masters in terms of all these people that you interact with. They're all potential people that are either going to be co-workers or going to be maybe companies that hire you in the future. So everyone that you work with, try to build a little bit of a relationship and add them on LinkedIn as well. And just, I suppose, stay organized, stay prepared, stay curious and open-minded, to everything that is possible for you. And just don't be afraid to be flexible and adapt as well. And most importantly, I want you to have fun and enjoy your year. And that's my email address as well, if anyone wants to reach out afterwards. And Kevin, I know that you're fiercely trying to type in your question there, so I will pause here. Okay, so as an asylum seeker waiting status, what are the funding options? And when applying for my master's program, do I apply as an EU student? Now, David, I'm not sure if you have any information about that, but not off the top of my head, I'd actually have to go and have a look into that, Kevin. So I think the best thing might be maybe for you to copy that into an email, just send it to me, and I'll see if I can loop in the right person.
Yeah, I similarly, I'm happy to talk to Kevin about that as well. If he wants to email me or book an appointment with me, there's a few kind of nuances. It's not necessarily cut and dry about what funding options might be available. We'd probably have to look a bit more closely at circumstances, really, and like time spent in the country and what have you in particular statuses before I could give any kind of concrete answer.
Fabulous. Thanks, David. All right. No, I don't think there's any more questions in there. So we will end it there. Thanks so much, everyone, for your time. And as I mentioned before, this recording will be sent out to everyone so you can watch back if there's anything that you missed. Thanks again, David and James. Really appreciate your time and for joining today. And hopefully we will see you soon.
Thanks, Mairead. Thanks, James.
Thank you, Mairead. Thank you, David. Thanks for having me.
Bye, everybody.